The screen is dark. A single, slowly pulsing red dot glows in the center, like a camera recording light. A low, synthesized hum builds. Narrator voiceover, a tense whisper, before we dive into this dark story. Look again at the title of this video. The title fades in, blood red and glitching. 3 disturbing true school lockdown stories. Narrator, sounds like a criminal's nightmare, doesn't it? A building on total lockdown. Every exit sealed. For someone out there, it was a frightening reality. Quick, jarring cuts. Security camera footage of an empty school hallway. A locker door slamming. Static. Narrator, but before we start, I have a question for you. The hum stops. Dead silence for 2 full seconds. Narrator, where are you watching this? Are you safe? Hiding under your covers? Alone in your car? Or are you watching in the office? Even though you probably shouldn't. A faint, distorted sound of someone trying a locked door handle? It's barely audible. Narrator, let me know in the comments what time it is. And if you're wearing headphones. The red recording dot pulses rapidly. Narrator, because believe me, for what comes next. The sound of the lock clicking open. A sharp, sudden inhale of breath. Narrator, you're going to need them. Black. Screen. Text appears in stark white. Subscribe before it finds you. The audio holds the tense, open silence of a dark room, waiting. This response is AI generated, for reference only. Title, Tenured. The headache was a precise, brutal thing. It sat behind my left eye, a shard of polished quartz, radiating hot, concentric rings of pain with every heartbeat. Kid. Each pulse whispered the same truth. I was too old for this, too old for the fluorescent buzz of this classroom, for the scent of industrial cleaner and adolescent apathy. The faces before Milani, with her perpetually raised eyebrow. Finn, a slouch in a hoodie. Smart, anxious Clara were just the latest batch in a 30-year procession of youth. I was meant to prepare for a world I found increasingly ludicrous. So when the sharp, familiar blare of the lockdown alarm shattered the post-lunch torpor, I felt only a thick, cynical weariness. Another drill. Another performance of security theater orchestrated by the administration to appease some bureaucratic checklist. The new principal, half my age and brimming with proactive energy. Loved these. You know the procedure, I said, my voice a dry rustle that barely cut through the siren. Blah, blah, security, blah, blah, quiet as mice. A few students managed. Weak smiles. They were used to my disillusionment. I was the school's relic, Mr. Adler. The history teacher who spoke of the Weimar Republic and the wall as if they were yesterday's gossip. His cynicism, a kind of dusty, comfortable furniture. We shuffled. Desks scraped. The heavy classroom door clicked shut, locking automatically with a sound like a tomb seal. The blinds were already drawn, casting the room in a murky, grey twilight. The alarm ceased, leaving a ringing silence that was somehow worse. This was the script. Now, we would wait for the all clear, a 10-minute exercise in collective boredom. Then, the intercom on the wall crackled to life. Not with Principal Vogel's brisk, rehearsed assurance. This was different. A low subodotory frequency vibrated through the room first, making the fillings in my teeth ache and the quartz shard in my skull blaze. Leonie winced. Finn straightened up. A voice emerged from the static. It was flat, affectless, a perfect replica of our former head mistress, Frau Drescher, who had retired 5 years ago. The tone was the same one used for announcing lost property or cafeteria menu changes. Lockdown confirmation. Incident Initial Report. November 7th, 2023. Chemistry Laboratory B, a containment breach involving anomalous crystalline structures, fatalities. 2. Instructor Schmidt and student Petrov do not approach the west wing staircase. The structures exhibit resonant properties. A cold trickle, unrelated to my headache, traced my spine. The date was correct. Today, but Instructor Schmidt was on sabbatical in Portugal. Student Petrov was in my third period class, currently sitting 2 meters from me, her face pale as paper. What the hell? Finn whispered. A recorded test, I said automatically, the teacher's instinct to maintain order. A poor taste. Simulation. Ignore it. The intercom hissed, then reset. The voice shifted, now mimicking the current deputy principal, Jer Brown. Update. Lockdown extended. Incident in the north hallway, adjacent to the art rooms. A student, name withheld, has fractured their sanity staring at the non-Euclidean geometry of the hallway. They are describing acute angles that swallow light. Please disregard any screams. They are a geometric byproduct. Clara by the door let out a small, choked gasp. Herr Adler. The walls. My gaze snapped to the strip of hallway visible through the narrow reinforced window in the door. The long corridor of our venerable gymnasium, with its dignified wainscoting and historical portraits, looked wrong. The perspective seemed to fold in on itself, the far end appearing both distant and uncomfortably close, like an image in a warped fisheye lens. The row of lockers didn't quite align. Their edges shimmered, suggesting depths that shouldn't exist. Then, from the direction of the art rooms, a scream tore through the building. Not a scream of fear, but of utter, gibbering horror, sound of mind-snapping recognition. It was cut off abruptly. Silence descended, thicker and heavier than before. 20 pairs of eyes were locked on me, wide with a terror that was no longer about drills. My cynicism curdled into something vile and cold in my gut. This was not a test. This was a recitation. The intercom buzzed again. This time, the voice was a hollow, digital composite of every authority figure I'd ever heard. Asterisk pedagogical note. Comprehension accelerates integration. The lesson proceeds. Update. Student in room 217, Friedrich Adler's history class, will imminently experience acute cardiac arrhythmia, triggered by chronophobic shock upon realizing the announcement timeline is retroactive and includes past personal trauma. Medkit intervention will be ineffective. Asterisk, my blood froze. My first name. My classroom number. My subject next to me, Leo, a quiet boy with a heart condition he'd disclosed in strict confidence, clutched his chest. His breath hitched, a sharp, wheezing intake. Herr Adler, my heart. It's remembering the surgery, but it feels like it's happening now. He slid from his chair, gasping. Chaos erupted. Clara screamed. Finn jumped up to help Leo. The room, our sealed box, was becoming a pressure cooker of panic. And I understood. The clarity was like ice water. This was no invasion. This was a lesson. The entity in the announcement system wasn't reporting events. It was scripting them. It was writing reality with the cold, precise language of officialdom, and our comprehension, our belief, was the ink. Our fear was the punctuation. Every gasped understanding, every whimper of recognition, fed the narrative and made it true. It was a cosmic headmaster, and its curriculum was our own unraveling. Don't listen, I barked, my voice stronger than it had been. In years, I knelt by Leo, ignoring the searing pain in my head. Leo, look at me. It's lying. It's using your memory against you. Your heart is strong. It's a liar. I was fighting not the symptom, but the source. I was trying to refute the lesson plan. For a moment, Leo's breathing eased slightly. The intercom crackled, a sound of irritation. The walls groaned. The doorframe seemed to soften, the wood grain pulsing like slow-moving muscle. The linoleum floor tiles bled a waxy, yellowish color. The entity was moving to more direct instruction. The final announcement came. It was no longer imitating anyone. It was pure, toneless authority. Lockdown Protocol Omega initiated. Total. Pedagogical integration. The syllabus concludes with practical application. The school will now assimilate the comprehending biomass. Hallways will become digestive tracts. Lockers will become gestation pods. The fear-based neural activity is optimal nutrient. The lesson is learned. The change was visceral. The walls didn't melt. They differentiated. The plaster swelled and formed rib-like structures. The door to the hallway elongated, the window stretching into a moist, glistening aperture. Low, wet, rhythmic pulsing sound permeated the air. From the corridor, sounds of squelching, of organic grinding, replaced the silence. Something was being processed. My students were sobbing, clutching each other, staring at the nightmare their school had become. They comprehended perfectly. They were excelling in fear. And that would be the death of them. The intercom microphone on the wall, a small, grey grill, hummed with malevolent potential. It was the entity's mouthpiece, its tool for teaching. A wild, desperate thought. Born of a lifetime deconstructing narratives and grading flawed logic, shot through me. To fight a teacher, you must break the lesson. You must submit an answer so profoundly wrong, it invalidates the entire test. I stumbled to the wall. I wrenched the protective cover off the intercom's talkback switch. The entity's hum vibrated. Up my arm. What are you doing? Clara cried. Failing the exam, I hissed. I pressed the switch. A screech of feedback echoed through the room and, I hoped, through the entire, throbbing organism of the school. I leaned into the grill. And with every ounce of my will, I began to teach. I did not speak truth. I did not plead or reason. I vomited a torrent of antisense. The Treaty of Versailles was signed on a Tuesday made of geese. I shouted, spittle flying. The Berlin Wall was constructed from the collective anxiety of dormant snails. Napoleon's greatest victory was fought inside a marble. The Bismarck sank in a puddle of existential doubt. The calendar is a liar. History is a sneeze that forgot its face. 2 + 2 equals the smell of yellow. The mitochondria is a confused baron. I screamed dates, names, theories, and mashed them with gibberish, with nursery rhymes, with grocery lists. I delivered it, in my best, driest lecture hall, monotone. I was giving a lesson in absolute, glorious nonsense. I was submitting pure, ungradable chaos. The entity's hum wavered. The pulsing in the walls stuttered. I redoubled my efforts, my voice growing hoarse. The causes of the First World War were a tangled spool of green thread and a missed dentist's appointment. The Reichstag fire was started by a self-conscious idea. The primary export of Prussia was metaphysical lint. With a sound like a tape snapping, the fleshy aperture that was the door snapped back into solid wood. The rib-like structures in the walls reverted to plaster. The pulsing silence was replaced by a deafening, mundane silence. The normal, dusty, boring silence of a school after hours. The transition was so sudden, it was dizzying. One moment, we were in a living nightmare. The next, we were just in a dark, locked classroom with a boy recovering on the floor. The lockdown alarm gave a single short blip. The main lights flickered on. The intercom issued a bland, digital ringtone, followed by Principal Vogel's genuine, confused voice. All clear. The drill is concluded. You may resume normal activities. When the firefighters and police finally breached our door's standard procedure for a drill gone wrong, they said they found us shell-shocked, but physically intact. Leo was checked by paramedics. His heart was fine, if racing. The other students, in fractured, incoherent statements, spoke of a mass hallucination, a panic attack fueled by a faulty alarm. The school was inspected. It was just a school. Old, solid, normal. They called it a trauma-induced, shared psychotic episode. A fascinating case study. I was put on administrative leave, with sympathetic nods to my age and my ordeal. The students recorded the human mind, bless its fragility, is also a master of insulation. They buried the memories under layers of rational explanation. I cannot. For me, the silence is different. When I sit alone in my apartment, with the lights off, I can hear it. A faint, approving hum, not in my ears, but in the bones of the building, in the deep infrastructure of things. It's the hum of the system, idling. Waiting, my headache never returned. In its place is a cold, clear space of faculty lounge in my own mind. I understand the curriculum now. I see the lesson plans woven into the fabric of dread. And I know, with a certainty that is my final and most terrible grade, what the resolution truly meant. I didn't defeat the headmaster. I impressed it. My performance of catastrophic nonsense wasn't a rejection of the lesson. It was a masterclass in deconstructing reality. It was the kind of advanced, disruptive thinking a truly perverse educator would value. I didn't break the narrative. I demonstrated a higher understanding of it. I am tenured, and in the deep, listening silence, I feel the hum, waiting. Waiting for my next lecture. The first lock of snow always fell in silence. That's what Sister Agnes told us during orientation, her voice as crisp as the air outside the lettered windows. Die erst Flock hurt man nie, she said.
You never
Here the first flake. I, Lena, from Frankfurt, a scholarship student with city grit under my fingernails and a nervous fluency in textbooks. Not dialects, thought it was just poetic nonsense. Now, hunched in the dark, I understand. Catastrophe begins softly. St. Wilgefortis's academy clung to the Austrian Alps, like lichen to rock. My vulnerability wasn't in my grades, they were impeccable but in my bones. I didn't understand the weight of the stone, the patience of the pines, or the way the locals, students and staff alike, seemed to listen to the mountains rather than just look at them. My roommate Greta, from a village 10 kilometers down the valley, kept a twist of mountain ash and a crude iron nail on our windowsill. For the drafts, she'd said, refusing to meet my eye. The alarm, when it came, was not the frantic, electric bell of a fire drill. It was a deep, resonant toning from the old bell in the clock tower, a sound that seemed to vibrate up from the foundations of the school itself. It was the 1st of May, Valparaiso. I'd noted it in my diary, with a doodle of a witch. Lockdown procedure. Frau Keller, our literature teacher, called out, but her voice held no urgency. It was low, practiced. To the Keller, in orderly lines. There was no panic, no running. The teachers moved among us, faces serene, guiding us not to our dormitories or modern classrooms, but through a Gothic archway I'd always assumed was decorative, down a spiraling stone staircase worn smooth by centuries. The air grew cold and smelt of wet earth and old wine. They herded us, all ATOD students, into the vast barrel-vaulted cellar beneath the oldest wing. The walls were rough-hewn granite, the floor packed dirt. "Remain calm. You will be safe here," Headmaster Richter announced from the doorway. His silhouette framed by the electric light of the corridor above. His words were hollow, echoing in the cavernous space. Then, with a final, unreadable glance over Usa Shepherd counting his flock, he stepped back. The heavy oak door, studded with iron, swung shut with a finality that stole my breath. The sound of a thick bolt sliding home, then a key turning, was obscenely loud in the sudden, near total darkness. A few whimpers, the shuffle of feet. Someone turned on their phone torch, the beam cutting a pathetic swath through the gloom, revealing wide, frightened eyes. "This isn't right," I whispered to no one in particular. "It's the protocol for avalanches," said a voice nearby, trying to sound authoritative. It was Stefan Aborda from Vienna, like me, an outsider. "Avalanche protocol in May." Gritta's voice, usually so soft, was sharp. She was not by the door. She was retreating deeper into the shadows, towards the back of the cellar, where the local kids, the ones from the valley villages, were congregating. A silent migration was happening in the dark. Then, through the ancient iron grill of a ventilation shaft high on the wall, it came. Sound. Not from the school, but from outside, carried on the still night air. A low, rhythmic chanting. Male and female voices, twisted together in a melody that was neither song nor speech. It was guttural, ancient, rising and falling like the wind through a rocky cleft. The words were German, but warped, archaic. I caught. Der Berg atmet. The mountain breathes, and das alte Blatt. The old blood. A strangled gasp came from the cluster of local students. Franz, a broad-shouldered boy from a logging family who rarely spoke in class, had pressed himself against the stone wall as if trying to merge with it. His face, in the ghostly light of a dozen phone screens, was the color of Franz. I called out, my city girl assertiveness, a thin shield. "What is that?" He didn't look at me. His eyes were fixed on the vaulted ceiling, as if he could see through the rock. "Das still jagen," he breathed, the words tasting of ash. "The silent hunt." "What hunt?" Stefan snapped, his fear turning to anger. "What are they saying?" Franz's gaze swung to us, the outsiders, and it was filled with a pity so profound it was more terrifying than any anger. "It is not for avalanches. It is for IHM. For the one in the high stone. The Gamsgeist." He swallowed hard. "When the signs are wrong. When the springs run bitter, or the chamois bears stillborn young, the valley gives a harvest. A harvest of the young. To appease, to renew." Laughter, brittle and hysterical, erupted from one of the city girls. "A mountain spirit. You're insane. This is just some stupid local pageant." But the chanting outside swelled. A new sound joined it, the clear, cold note of an alpenhorn, not playing a jolly tune, but one long, sustained, mournful note that seemed to spear down through the earth and into our bones. Paranoia, swift and venomous, split the cellar. We fractured along the fault line that had always been there, the outsiders and the valley kids. We accused them of knowing more, of being part of some cruel prank. They looked at us with a mixture of fear and a strange, resigned knowledge. "They will come for some of us," a local girl named Elk whispered, her fingers worrying a small wooden charm around her neck. "It is an honor. It keeps the valley safe." An honor? I spat. They locked us in a cellar. That's not an honor, it's a selection. Hours bled together in the dark. The chanting came and went, sometimes closer, sometimes farther. We huddled in our separate tribes, our phone batteries dying one by one, plunging us into deeper pools of blackness. The modern world was eroding, minute by minute, leaving only the primitive reality of stone, cold, and the terrible waiting silence between the horn blasts. Then, a sound that froze the very air in our lungs. The scrape of the bolt. The heavy door groaned inward. Light from the corridor beyond spilled in, not the sterile fluorescence of tonight, but the warm, dancing glow of torchlight. Headmaster Richter stood in the aperture. He was not armed. He wore his academic gown, and his face held a gentle, paternal sadness. "Children," he said, his voice kind. "The time has come. The Jagon must have its due." He extended a hand. "Into the cellar. Come now." The willing first, the pure of heart. The Spirit chooses those who embrace the duty. A deathly hush. No one moved. Stefan was trembling beside me, muttering no, no, moo. Then, movement. From the back, the local students were stirring. Franz stood up. His face was no longer terrified. It was empty, smooth, his eyes glazed like frosted glass. He walked. Past me, not seeing me. Elk followed. Greta followed. One by one, the valley children walked towards the door with a calm, somnambulate certainty. They were not being dragged. They were participating. But they didn't walk out. They stopped just inside the threshold and turned to face the rest of us, the cowering, confused mass of outsiders. Their eyes, blank as quartz, scanned our faces. Headmaster Richter nodded, a priest at communion. "The herd must be culled," he intoned. "The Spirit sees the hearts. Assist the selection." Franz's hand shot out, strong as a timber clamp, and seized Stefan's arm. Elk pointed a slender finger at a sobbing girl from Munich. Greta looked directly at me. There was no recognition in her gaze, only a passive, awful purpose. She took a step towards me. They were not fellow victims. They were the acolytes. Within the herd, the shepherd's dogs. Pure animal instincts took over. I spun and bolted into the deepest, blackest recesses of the cellar, away from the torchlight and the reaching hands. Behind me, I heard scuffles, cries that were swiftly muffled. My heart was a wild thing trying to escape my ribs. "Lena," it was Greta's voice, but flat, alien. "It is better to be willing." I stumbled over a crate, my hands scraping on the rough stone. And then I felt it a colder draft, a whisper of moving air from a gap between two large wine racks. Franz's words from a forgotten geographer field trip flashed back. "My great uncle," said the monks built tunnels. For smuggling, for escape. I shoved the rack with a desperate strength I didn't know I had. It screeched against the floor, revealing a low black opening. A tunnel, smelling of damp and age. I didn't think. I crawled in. I heard the headmaster's voice, closer now, tinged not with anger, but with a mild disappointment. One for the hunt to find. So be it. I crawled until my knees were raw, then ran hunched over in the utter blackness. Guided only by the faint upward slope and the desperate hope it led out. The sounds of the chanting and the horn were inside the tunnel with me, vibrating through the rock. I heard other sounds too soft, padding footfalls, and a dry clicking noise that was not human. The tunnel mouth spilled me out into a thicket of juniper. high on the mountainside below the school. I fell, gasping clean, cold air. Below, in the school courtyard, torchlight moved in a slow, deliberate procession. Silhouetted figures, some walking freely, some being led, were filing out towards the tree line and the higher crags. The chanting was a wave now, coming from all around. I ran, not down the manicured paths, but straight down the steep, treacherous slope. Through pine forests that lashed my face, over streams that soaked me to the skin. I fell, tumbled, got up and ran again. The modern world was a myth. There was only the mountain, the hunt, and the need to get to the valley, to the lights. To the police, I saw the sodium glow of streetlights an eternity later. I stumbled onto the asphalt of the main valley road, my uniform torn, my face streaked with blood and dirt. A police checkpoint to cars, blue lights flashing silently, was blocking the road ahead. Relief, hot and dizzying, flooded me. I staggered towards them, sobbing, "Hilf, help." There, at the school, they're taking students? A hunt, a sacrifice. The lead officer, a man with a weathered face and calm eyes, steadied me. He listened, his expression grave. He nodded slowly, as if I'd confirmed something expected. He turned to his colleague, spoke into his radio, his voice clear and professional. "Jiger Sindim and Marsh," he said. "Hunters are inbound." A pause. As he looked at me, a clinical, assessing look that stripped away any last illusion of sanctuary, Eins income. One escaped. He wasn't calling for backup. He was reporting a flaw in the ritual. He looked back at me, and in his eyes, I saw the same reverent, sad resignation that had been in Headmaster Richter's. The look of a curator. The look of a man who tended an ancient dark garden and saw a single blossom had blown out of the wall. The valley road stretched out behind him, lined with quiet, darkened houses. In every window, I realized, behind every drawn curtain, people were listening, waiting for the hunt to be complete. They were all in on it. The officer placed a heavy, firm hand on my shoulder. It wasn't a comforting gesture. It was the grip of a farmer who has found a lost lamb, knowing exactly which pen it belongs in. "Come, Fräulein," he said softly, steering me towards the patrol car. "The night is not over. The mountain is still breathing." This response is AI for reference only.